"Why do you like me?" she had asked him once, a simple question that held the weight of a lifetime of doubt. "I'm nothing special." He had looked at her, his brow furrowed with genuine confusion. "Rachel, you're the most incredible person I've ever met. You're funny and smart, and you see the world in a way no one else does. You have this quiet strength. It's breathtaking." The words were so foreign, so disorienting, that they sounded like a lie. She couldn't accept them. She was a house built on a shaky foundation of insecurity, and his love felt like a hurricane of truth she couldn't withstand. The relationship crumbled not because of any grand betrayal, but because she had betrayed it herself, unable to trust that she was worthy of it. After Liam, she became a fortress. She threw herself into her work, starting her own small graphic design company. She poured all her creative energy into it, the same passion she once reserved for photography. The company, called Resonance, was her sanctuary. It was a space where her ideas were the only ones that mattered, where her effort directly led to success, and where the only approval she needed was her own. Her loneliness was a quiet, constant hum in the background of her life. She had friends, but she held them at a distance, afraid of letting them too close, of showing them the vulnerable parts of herself that she so deeply distrusted. Her family remained a distant planet, one she would visit for holidays and mandatory phone calls, but never truly inhabit. The air at the engagement party was thick with the scent of lilies and the syrupy sweetness of white wine. It was a lavish affair, held in the sun-drenched ballroom of an old country club. The setting was a perfect, polished reflection of her family's carefully curated image. Rachel, in a simple but elegant black dress, felt like a smudge on a masterpiece. She had come, of course. It was an obligation, a familial duty she had performed her entire life. This time, the occasion was her brother Noah's engagement to a woman named Clara. Clara was everything her family had ever wanted in a daughter-in-law, beautiful, poised, and from a wealthy, old-money family that would solidify their social standing. She was a perfect match for the golden boy. Rachel had a polite, detached smile plastered on her face as she navigated the room, exchanging pleasantries with family friends she hadn't seen in years. The same questions, the same knowing smiles. "And how is your little company doing, Rachel?" they would ask, the tone implying it was a sweet, little hobby. "You're a designer, aren't you? How lovely." She would nod and smile, the words a familiar kind of poison. She saw her parents, beaming with an almost blinding pride as they introduced Noah and Clara to their guests. The way her father clapped Noah on the back, the way her mother fussed over Clara's veil. It was a physical manifestation of the attention she had always been denied. The sun was on them, and she was in the shade. Then came the speeches. Her father, David, took to the microphone first, his voice booming with emotion. "I have never been prouder than I am today," he began, his eyes fixed on Noah. "My son, my boy, has found his person. He has built a life, a career, a family, everything a father could ask for. He has made us so proud." Rachel felt a slow, hot burn rise in her chest. Not a word about her. Not a mention of the company she had built from nothing, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices. Her successes were, as always, footnotes to his grand narrative. Then, Noah stepped up, his arm wrapped around Clara. He was a natural public speaker, charming and charismatic. He thanked his parents, his future in-laws, and his friends. He spoke of his love for Clara with a sincerity that was, to Rachel's great frustration, entirely genuine. And then he said it. The words that would become the final, definitive betrayal. "I have to thank my family, of course," he said, his smile a flash of white in the spotlight. "My parents have always been my biggest supporters. They gave me everything I needed to succeed. And my sister, Rachel," he paused, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on her. It was a brief, almost dismissive glance. My sister has always been there, too. She's quiet, you know, but she's the shadow in my light. She's always reminded me how much brighter I need to shine. The laughter that followed was gentle, a wave of polite amusement. But for Rachel, it was a tidal wave. The room tilted. The sound of the music, the chatter, the clinking of glasses faded into a dull roar. The shadow in my light. The words echoed in the cavern of her heart, confirming every insecurity she had ever felt. He hadn't meant it maliciously, not really. It was just an offhand, casual cruelty born of a lifetime of thoughtless privilege. But it was the truth. In his eyes, in her family's eyes, she was nothing more than a backdrop. A contrast to make his success more brilliant. A ghost at the table. Rachel didn't wait for the toast. She didn't wait to congratulate the happy couple. She simply turned and walked out of the ballroom, her black dress a stark silhouette against the brightly lit doors. She walked past the lilies and the laughing guests, a ghost finally choosing to leave. She didn't stop until she was outside, the cool night air a shocking relief against her hot skin. Leaning against a marble column, she finally let the tears fall, hot and furious. It wasn't just the words. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being overlooked. The forgotten birthday, the dismissed victories, the quiet loneliness of a woman who had fought so hard to build her own life, only to be reduced to a punchline in her brother's success story. She pulled out her phone and opened her mother's contact. Her thumb hovered over the name. This was it. The breaking point. The moment she decided, definitively, that she could no longer be a ghost in her own family. The story of the empty chair at Thanksgiving wasn't a story of a woman who was just busy. It was the story of a woman who had finally chosen herself. The first few weeks after the engagement party were a blur of cold silence. Rachel's phone, which she had kept off for the entire drive home, was a blinking monument to her family's confusion and growing anger. A dozen missed calls from her mother, a few curt texts from her father, and a single, passive-aggressive message from Noah. What was that? Don't be so dramatic. She ignored them all. For the first time, she felt a liberating sense of calm, a peace that came from no longer being tethered to a family that saw her as an afterthought. The empty space left by their absence wasn't a void, it was a blank canvas. She threw herself into her company, Resonance. It had been a side hustle, a passion project, but now it became her entire world. She worked 14-hour days, fueled by a ferocious, new kind of energy. She redesigned her website, polished her portfolio, and took on clients she previously thought were out of her league. She was no longer just a designer, she was a creator, a businesswoman, a force. Her first major success came with a contract from a startup to create their entire brand identity. She immersed herself in the project, crafting a visual story that was both modern and timeless. The launch was a triumph, and the company's founder, a sharp-witted woman named Elena, was so impressed that she became not just a client, but a mentor and a friend. Elena was the kind of person who could see right through facades. She recognized Rachel's talent, but also sensed the deep-seated insecurity that still lurked beneath the surface. Over late-night strategy sessions and countless cups of coffee, she gently challenged Rachel to own her success, to stop apologizing for her brilliance. Stop waiting for permission, Elena had told her once. You're the CEO. The artist. The visionary. Act like it. Rachel's friendships also deepened. She had always kept people at a distance, but in her new, solitary life, she found herself opening up. There was Mark, an old college friend who was a talented musician. He had a way of seeing the world in a similar, artistic way. They would spend hours in a jazz club downtown, talking about the rhythms of life and the dissonance of their pasts.